Hello and welcome back to the wood shop. This is in part one, we prepped our stock. Part two, we laid out our dimensions. So this will be part three of the desktop organizer. I'm going to call this Model B here because Model A had the single pencil hole as you see here, and we're planning on making three smaller pencil holes. But before that, we're going to cut our paper slot and our phone slot using the crosscut and rip cut teeth of our Ryoba Saw, respectively. We'll clean up those cuts with a, in this case, half-inch chisel because this slot is supposed to be exactly half an inch, and this one will be a little bit more than half an inch because my phone is a little bit thicker with the case on. I'm also going to need my brace and the appropriately sized bit. We picked this out last time. I believe this is a number 10 or 11, but it's a good size for holding a single pen or marker, and we'll make three holes there. We'll want our saw guide to make nice square cuts, and your rag and a can oiler to clean up your saw afterwards, and a hammer. If we get time to do the curved chisels in this section, I might save that for a separate section, cleaning everything up with a chisel. We'll see how the time goes. So, without further ado, I think I'm going to start with the cross cut because that tends to be the easier one. We'll just step back here, open up our vise, and drop in our block partway in there. I want to be able to reach the edge down here, so don't bury that under the vise. Now, we could simply line up, because we have the magnetic guide, I'm pretty confident I'm going to put the magnetic guide right up against our line there, and that will hold the saw exactly where I want it. Light touch to the saw, simply move back and forth. Let those teeth dig in and do the cutting all on their own. I'm going to tilt down a little bit just to make sure I'm going down that front line there. And once I have about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch of depth, I am done with the magnetic guide. I can move that out of my way, and now I can see clearly both sides of the saw doing its job, following that established curve. The saw is, at this point, not really able to move back and forth and be tilted out of position. So keep going until we reach the bottom of this. Occasionally, I'm going to want to come back here to the back and make sure I'm not going past my depth line on the back either. Avoid that by just making sure your saw is either perfectly horizontal or tilted towards the front. And now I got to get down here, get a good look there. Blow the dust out of the way. I need a little bit more. This is going to be a problem. I need to scoot this over just a little bit so I don't run into this handle. And we'll just slide this back in. There we go. That's to depth. Turn it around. And we can see on the back here, this has gone a little bit crooked on the back. So that guide was not enough to make this absolutely perfect. That's okay, we can fix that up with a chisel. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit more to depth. Now, for the other side, let's try something a little bit different. I'm going to get my square here, and I should have already created a line here with my marking knife, but just in case, let's do that again. Make a nice deep cut with the marking knife, and then I'm going to cut to that with the chisel. So we'll create a knife wall here. So just very gently push into that, taking off just a little sliver. And we are creating a shallow groove in here that will hold the saw blade just like that. And I can push laterally and try to drag the saw across, but it won't skip up out of that. And after a few strokes, I now have a perfectly straight, established cut there already. I can also do that if I open this up. Do that down the line here. I believe we marked this with the knife as well. Yep. Just real shallow. Flick out the little flakes. Just enough to hold the saw blade. And I'm just going to cut with the very tip of the saw blade and kind of pull that back, cutting into and creating an established curve down to our line. So that creates a weak point in the block. And now, when I return to the original position, and continue my cut, I'm going to lean forward a little bit, follow that carefully, but my saw should naturally fall into that line. And so even without the saw guide, I'm going to flatten out here. I don't want to cut into my vise. You can see my line has come and followed there quite nicely. And we're to depth on that side. Turn it around. This is the side that I did not create the knife line in. And so you can see it has deviated quite significantly. But we are down to depth, and that will be good enough. So now we can pop that out of there with the chisel. I would like to go ahead and clamp this in the vise so it doesn't move. Because this is a cross-grain cut, what we're going to do is, with the chisel, we will sever between the fibers, and it will just pop right out of here very easily. In fact, feel a chunk right off of there. I bet I could break on through. I don't want to break on through. Let's grab a scrap block, put underneath there to protect the workbench itself. But I'm just striking straight down in the middle. And that comes right off of there. And the reason you want to start in the middle is because it does that. It goes way deeper than on this side where I started. So if you start down here and try to cut there, you're not going to make it. And at this point is where I can notice my crooked saw line is getting me in trouble, because now my chisel is wider than the actual space between the cuts. And that's making it stick. So we're just going to keep popping pieces out, going half and half and half at a time, until we get most of the way to our line. So I'm going to go one more here. Okay, and from the back side, go one. There's our line, so I'll go just above that. I'll come back and pair that closer after. I'm just trying to get the bulk of the waste out of there. Okay, not bad. We can pair and clean that up with the chisel in a moment. For now, let's talk about the next cut. Put the cap on our chisel for safekeeping. and we are going to switch sides of our saw, because now we're going to cut into the end grain. So we're cutting down with the grain. We're going to use the rip teeth, the larger ones on your Ryoba. And we're going to do basically the same thing. I need to cut on this side of the line. I don't have much for my saw guide to grip onto, but I think I can do enough to get it started here. Okay. That line. And we can also inch our way over here, this side. That's not bad, but you see how that gets crooked there? That's because I'm pulling it a little towards myself. I don't want that. So I'm going to tilt this a little bit the other way, and we'll try from this corner now. Put that right on the line. Tilt my saw. Notice I'm not going at a 45-degree angle to the board, because then it's only one tooth digging in there at a time. I'm going pretty shallow, so I'm going across the top edge of the board there to get that cut established. And then we'll do the same thing over here. And now I can line up with the groove I've got going over there. Knowing it's now straight over here. And now the same thing, connect these lines. And this is a matter of working our way down the faces here. So I'm going to do the same thing with this face. Tilt that a little bit more. There we go. My handle is bumping the workbench down here. So get the blade in the groove already established. Hold that tight. A bit of a cut established. Set it on my line. Get that cut established. Now with the guide out of my way, I can carefully work my way down the line. Both sides. I'm running into this. This is really a problem. So I'm just gonna go like that. There we go. Okay. Now that those lines are set, connect up with here, kind of rock back and forth. You are trying to create what they call a triangular cut with this. Connecting this line and this line, you're going to eventually get to the matching 45. And if you keep that as your sight, as it were, keep aiming for that. Connect this corner to that corner. Sawing only the part of the wood. We're not even going to worry about the other edge right now. Nice and gentle. Let the saw do the work. I'm not going to push down and force it to work harder. Of course, I don't want to go sawing past my line there. So, I think we're about there. And now the other side. Okay. See what this looks like. It's pretty good. I think I could go a little bit lower right here. Okay. And now we just got to turn that around and do the same thing to the top edge. So very gentle nibble down our line. Always tipping it back up to connect to that established kerf. We want it to be all part of the same cut plane. Remember, this is just the guideline for our curve at the end. We want to cut all the way down to here. And I'm getting a lot of jump out there, so let's lower it down in the vise. Get a much tighter grip. Clear that dust. And we're pretty much to our depth on this side, so now I'm just going to go back and cut horizontally until we connect up those two edges. So I've done this angle, I've done this angle, now I'm cutting this way kind of to take out that peak that I will have created in there. That we can do at a little bit steeper angle, that'll be more comfortable. Make sure I don't go past my line over here. I want to get overzealous. We're kind of tilting. I can feel the resistance of a little bit of wood down inside there. And that's good. Okay, next slot. And lean over this side so I can see the line. Tilt up, connect, down, bring that line down. In the plane, got my line established down to depth. Tilt it back up, bring this around. And complete the sawing. Down there. I'm still pivoting a little bit in the middle. Okay, now for removing that section, it's going to be a lot more work because we cannot take advantage of the grain and split off our pieces there. So I am going to clamp this in the vise. We're going to have to pare our way in with the chisel. So do not try to force your way through. You will have to cut. So I'm going to, because I have that knot there, I'm going to start right here behind the knot. Make a single tap, and I've now made a groove there, and I can come and cut down to that. You can see that's my mark, and this folds and snaps and breaks right there. I would like the line to be right here, so we're going to go, I can feel the chisel fall into that line. I'm going to go right in front of that. because when I hit this, that slope is going to move the chisel down that way, backwards. I don't want to go backwards. And then I can peel off that chunk. All right, and now I can hit deeper and pare deeper. And we're just going to keep doing this, carving from the end until we get halfway through from one side, and we'll go halfway from the other. But you should never require more than 1 or 2 hammer hits at a time. I do not want to hear people wailing away. Bam, bam, bam. You're not trying to drill a hole with your chisel. This gap is just a little bit bigger, and my chisel is wide, so I'm going to be doing 2, kind of one close to the right, and then scoot over to the left, and there. One angled cut to the left, one to the right. Getting through that knot is a little bit tricky, and I just sharpened this chisel too. That is the unpleasant part of working with or through knots. They are really hard part of the wood and difficult to cut. Just going to keep going here, and at some point, I'm getting a really steep angle. I want to move out and take off more of this. In fact, I could even come in. We can come all the way to the outside edge. Give this a tap or two. And then we can take advantage of the grain and split off chunks that way, get it out of our way. And that will work quite nicely. Cut to our chop line and just scoop it out. And is that another knot in there? In the middle? Oh gosh. Once again, highlighting the importance of choosing your pieces wisely. How far along are we? Down to 1. That's not bad. And with that, at about halfway, I'm going to flip it over and start working from the other side. So I'll do the same thing. I want to stop here, so I'm going to come up just a little bit in front of that. We'll clean it up later. 2 hammer taps. And carve away our chips. That one's tough. I went too greedy. Really too greedy. Split that. I tried to carve lower than my actual chop. This is what happens if you try to rush. You are prone to making more mistakes. Great haste makes great waste, as they say. Very true of woodworking. It is always better to slow down what you're doing than risk causing greater problems for yourself. Come into the end, take off just a quarter of an inch, less than that at a time. Make sure those fibers are thoroughly severed first. Okay. Also finding this darker side of the pine to be a little tougher to cut as well, which is very interesting. I wonder, getting close there, so I'll position myself right over the leg where the table is most sturdy. That's where I should be doing most of my chopping. And come back up here onto my scrap wood because I suspect this is about ready. No? All right. A little bit more. We'll split this in half. There we go. All right, and we broke that right off there. Probably a little deeper than we would like. There's kind of a concavity there where the fibers broke instead of getting a clean cut. But that will work. It's deep on the inside, and we can come in and we can clean this up, pare this a little smooth anyways. But for the last step on this part, I want to make those 3 holes there. So clamp that in. We'll get our, there we go, brace and bit. That goes in there. Tighten that up. That doesn't seem straight. The jaws have a bit of an angle to them, so you want them to be grabbing on it, this at an angle. Bring those forward so you can see. Right, they've got a diamond-shaped hole in there, so this is going to sit basically right in there, but of course lower down. That up until it slides on in. There. There we go. That looks good. Okay. Place our point on our marks already established. Apply firm pressure. This is going to be terrible view. See if I can back up here so we can actually see this. Alright, I'm going to apply pressure there and crank here. The spiral at the start, the snail, will get it started. And this is a nice sharp bit in soft pine. So I'm just looking to keep this vertical. I should also check here. Is this vertical? This is almost more important. I don't want this to be crooked. Then it'll blow out the edges there. Okay, but that is started nicely. The other option would be to bring this all the way out. Set this inside here. And then we can drill horizontally, which is a lot easier because then I can brace the brace against my body and use that to apply just a slight forward pressure. I do have to note in this plane, it's a little harder to see, but then I can very easily tell if I'm tilted this way or that way. And I'm just going to go with my intuition on whether I am tilted up or down. And back out every once in a while, clear chips, and see how deep I've gone. I want to go, see if we can clear off the plans here. I've done a terrible job of keeping things clean and tidy. I'm done with the saw. I should oil that up, put the guards on so we can put it away properly. Much better. But I would like to go about 2 inches deep. Okay? And right now we are that far? About 1 inch deep. So I've got twice as much to go. And I've hit that darker heartwood of my pine. It's gotten a lot harder. That deep, that is 1.5 inches. I'm going to go a little more. Feels a lot better. Looking a lot better. I can also use, I put them away, I didn't think I would need them. The calipers can be used as a depth gauge. You'll notice this pin sticking out there. So if I set the edge here, we can just drop that pin and we can see we are actually not quite at 1.5 inches. A little slower going on this darker wood in here. I'm constantly checking. So I got another 1/4 inch to go. But once I've established my depth the first time, I'll be able to mark that on the bit with a piece of tape. right at the 2. So that's perfect. Clear out all the chips. Oh, and my snail has actually poked through on the other side, so that tells me that has gone exactly that far, so I will want to stop a little bit less. I went a little too greedy, came through there. So I'm going to grab a bit of blue tape. It's an infinite roll of blue tape. There's no edge. Oh, wait, there it is. And I'm going to create a flag so that the tip does not poke through next time, right there. So now I just drill until the tape hits the wood, and I will be done. I know, this is a really boring part, but it has to be done. Do be mindful that having that flag tape will interfere with the chips leaving. Ooh, and it's a little squeaky. There we go. Yeah, that's better. And last one. Let's go a little slower this time. You want to start slowly so you get a nice clean cut around the top edge. If you notice, I went a little too hastily on the second hole. Got some tear out up there. We'll have to clean that up later. Got into the tough portion. It's not wanting to grab. Or rather, I bet my snail is plugged up, or the hole is plugged up. No? Okay. Okay, there we go. Clear out the chips, and we're cutting once again. More to go. Almost there. Okay. That'll be good. Okay, and there I have an almost but not quite complete desktop organizer. We're down to final details at this point, so in the next part we'll go ahead and round off those corners and clean up the slots with the chisel.